Sonic. Everyone has something to say about this blue little fuckboy, for better or for worse. You either love him or you hate him. As for me, well, I've always been a fan. I've experienced the highs, the lows, and, well, whatever kind of fever dream state that we're in right now. Back in January, I made a video discussing the possibilities of a Sonic Adventure remake, and my point was that as much as I would love to see it, there was a part of me that was worried that it wouldn't meet the quality standards set by the likes of Crash or Spyro. Recent games, despite me actually enjoying them, have felt incredibly underwhelming, and there really isn't a lot to look forward to if you're a Sonic fan right now. So this had me looking back on some of the games that I was either indifferent towards or just straight up never played, and I wanted to give them another shake. Which leads me into today's topic. Does anyone here remember Sonic 06? Oh god. Oh, that's the most cliched thing you could say in a fucking Sonic video. Ugh. Oh, I need a shower. Anyways, Sonic 06 was a failure and it damaged the brand's reputation. This was Sonic Team's first crack at what was, at the time, next-gen hardware. A lot of people jumped ship and lost faith in SEGA after this. So, SEGA and Sonic Team needed to make this next Sonic game bigger and better than the rest. They needed this next game to be a hit. They couldn't afford another bomb like Sonic 06. This had to be like the most polished and the most complete game they had ever made. They even had Pixar animation as their quality standards. I mean, with standards like that, there's no way this game could possibly fail.
There's one thing you should know about Sonic Unleashed before spending your hard-earned money on it. It's a big piece of garbage.
Oh. Yeah, when this game first came out, critics were not kind to it whatsoever, using the same tired critiques that they've been using for years. Something bad camera, something bad controls, werehog don't belong here, hashtag not my Sonic. For a good while, this game was considered to be one of the bad ones, but recently, this game has seen a surge in popularity. Nowadays, fans actually think pretty highly of this game, seeing how it did what SEGA and Sonic Team wanted it to do. It raised the quality standard. Of course, you still have those out there who stand by their views and cite it as one of the bad ones, but this game is nowhere near as hated as it used to be. As for me, I've said before that this was my least favorite 3D Sonic game. Not the worst, mind you, just my least favorite. I feel as if there's a difference between the two statements. I've always said that it's been more fun watching people play the game than it is to actually play it yourself. But then again, it's been a few years since I've actually sat down and played it. So with the recent rise in popularity and the current drought that we're in right now, I've decided I wanted to give this game another shake. I mean, at this point, what do I have to lose? This is a little game called Sonic Unleashed. You know, it's hard to imagine that this game came out over 10 years ago. If you were to tell me that this game came out in 2014, I probably would have believed you. After Sonic 06 tanked, they decided to develop a new engine, the Hedgehog engine, and wow, I mean, this game looks great, even to this day. I mean, sure, some of the cutscene animations aren't that great, and some of the human models are starting to look a little dated, but in motion, this game is a sight for sore eyes. It's crazy that this game, despite being over 10 years old, is still the best looking Sonic game we've had to date. I mean, that inspiration from Pixar definitely paid off. It's kind of weird looking back and seeing the footage that they showed off for E3 for this game, and it really makes you think about where we are in the industry nowadays. Like, you look at the footage then, and then you look at what the final product looks like, and the final product looks significantly better. And the sad thing is that this doesn't happen anymore. If anything, it's the exact opposite. This game does have excellent art direction, and overall it does look great. But with that said, this game was not optimized well at all for the Xbox 360 or PS3. It's no secret that this game is plagued with performance issues, especially in the out-of-bed day stages. The frame rate dips pretty hard, but at the same time, it's nothing that I'm not used to. A lot of games from this generation struggle with this kind of performance, so while I'm not going to excuse the poor optimization, it wasn't anything that I couldn't get used to. Now, with all of that being said, it is pretty obvious that they were developing this game mostly for the Xbox 360 in mind. With the Xbox 360, it's locked at 30 frames per second, but it does dip below that every once in a while. Well, not every once in a while, it dips a lot, but you know what I mean. But with the PS3 version, on the other hand, I've seen it go from 30 to 40 to 50 to 60. It's this inconsistent mess, and when it dips down to below 30, it is incredibly noticeable, more so than it is on the Xbox 360 version. So for my money's worth, I do prefer the Xbox 360 version because it felt more consistent. Like, I knew what I was getting into and I knew what I was going to expect. So, yeah, a bit of an unscripted side tangent, but it's just something that I wanted to put on the table for you guys. Back on the topic at hand, they were so inspired by Pixar that they even decided to release a short movie to promote the game, Night of the Werehog. It's only about 10 minutes long, and for what it is, it's actually really cute. You got beautiful animation that's loaded with charm. It's really fun to watch. Though, watching it nowadays kind of makes me sad knowing that we could have had a Sonic movie that looked like this, but instead we're getting this. Allegedly. They're gonna work on redesigns, but yeah, I'm sure that's totally gonna happen.
Huh. Well, how about that?
Speaking of Pixar quality, this is the first thing that you see upon booting up the game. You get to see this glorious CGI scene where Sonic single-handedly takes down an entire space fleet. The way how Sonic's reveal is built up and seeing him in action is just jaw-dropping. I mean, come on, I know you've seen this before, and I know that you know this opening is incredible and just brimming with detail. Ow. Hey there. It's been a while, little buddy. How you doing? This CG scene is what sets the stage for the game. Eggman effectively splits the entire world into giant chunks, unleashing a hellish beast known as Dark Gaia. This, for some reason, causes Sonic to turn into a werewolf-like creature, infamously known as the werehog. Okay, so a bit of a side rant coming on. It's not gonna take too long, but just bear with me. So I'm not against the idea of having multiple playstyles or multiple playable characters in my Sonic game. Again, I'm a Sonic Adventure 1 fan. Sonic Adventure is my favorite Sonic game. It's one of my favorite games of all time, for crying out loud. And I also do understand why we have the werehog. If we were to only have the day stages, then this game would be really short. I'm not against the idea, but the concept of Sonic turning into a werewolf has always been stupid to me. Like, what, were werewolves popular back in like 2008 or something? But then again, we also have Twilight Princess came out in like 2006, and that game had Link turning into a wolf. Not exactly the same thing, but it's a similar concept. So I'm not exactly sure why I'm okay with it in Twilight Princess, but in Sonic Unleashed, I find it dumb. I mean, I guess that could just be my bias showing through. I am completely open to that possibility. But the whole premise of this game is to put the world back together piece by piece. I mean, I always knew that Eggman had earth-shattering technology, but this is ridiculous! I'm not apologizing for that one. Fuck off. I'm not about to do a summary of this game's entire plot, but what I will say is that while the story isn't anything groundbreaking— oh damn, I got two in! This story is well told and it is enjoyable. My friend Jay of Jay's Reviews put it best. You can make a story worth tuning in for as long as you present it well. The characters involved feel true to themselves. Sonic retains that fun-loving, go-getting attitude that makes him lovable, but then when the stakes are raised, he does take it seriously. I've also always loved this line.
Spagonia. That's a continent over. An easy jog if the planet weren't broken.
See, that's Sonic to me. I've said before that I actually do like the tone and feel of Sonic Colors. You know, it feels like an episode of a Saturday morning cartoon, and for what it is, I think it works really well in that game, especially when other games like Shadow or Sonic 06 tried way too hard to be serious and, dare I say, edgy. It was nice to have something that felt more goofy and lighthearted. You know, it was refreshing for the time. But with the recent games, the story and tone just feel completely all over the place, especially with the likes of Lost World and Forces. You know, they want to have that goofy, cartoony feel that Sonic Colors nailed, but at the same time, they also want to bring up mass genocide and torture. So, on the one hand, it doesn't try hard enough, and on the other hand, it's trying way too hard. Man, it's like I said, we're in like a weird fever dream era. My point is that Sonic Unleashed is the perfect mix between the two extremes. There's still a lot of goofy, cartoony moments that got a chuckle out of me, but there are also moments of pure heart. You have Amy seeing Sonic as the werehog for the first time, and she doesn't recognize him, and Sonic actually looks pretty bummed out. It shows that he like low-key cares about the attention that she gives him, and is embarrassed that she didn't recognize him. You know, it's kind of ironic too, given how many times she had gotten Sonic mixed up with other people. The one time she gets it right, she doesn't even know it. But when she does find out, she eventually tells Sonic that she's in love with who he is, so that no matter what kind of form he's going to take, she'll still love him. Like, damn, dude, he's got himself a keeper! Or how about when Chip recovers his memories and explains to Sonic that the reason why Sonic didn't turn into a mindless monster is because his spirit is just that strong. Then he tries to not get Sonic involved with stealing away Dark Gaia because he knows how dangerous it's going to be, but Sonic ain't having any of that because at this point he's in it till the endgame. Chip and Sonic's friendship feels genuine. Oh, right, that's someone who I completely forgot to mention. So, Chip is the new character that is exclusive to this game. He's this weird, fairy-looking thing that follows Sonic around. Chip lost his memories, so while you're trying to put the world back together, you're also trying to help Chip recover his memories. And I think Chip is a fine character. He's got a heart of a child and is just brimming with innocence. But what brings down Chip's likability is his voice. Now, to be fair, I'm not sure what a creature like this would sound like, but not like this. I don't know, it's too deep for something that looks this cute. The rest of the voice cast does a great job, and Jason owns the role as Sonic. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Jason has always been my favorite voice for Sonic, and his acting here is some of the best work for the character. Nothing comes off as cringy or over the top. He sounds completely natural in the role, especially when you're playing this game and you hear Sonic enjoying himself whenever he goes through like rainbow rings or while he's boosting. This game also made me respect Jason a hell of a lot more than I used to when I found out that he recorded a good chunk of his lines with a nasty cold, especially when you take into consideration how gruff the werehog sounds. Like, that must have done a number on the poor guy's throat. Also, of course, you got this clip. So we have a good story with a tone that perfectly captures the spirit and attitude of Sonic, strong visual presentation, and some of the best voice work in the series. And really, my only complaint with the story, and it's a very minor one, so keep this in mind, is that characters like Tails and Amy are in this game, but they don't really have that much to do. I only wish that if they were going to be here, they would have more of a presence. But what they do here, they're effective and they get the job done just fine. However, this game lives or dies by its gameplay, and seeing how it's been 10 years and we're still using mechanics from this game, I think it's safe to say that Sonic Team had something going here. After Sonic 06 failed, Sonic Team decided to get rid of the adventure formula. Well, kind of, we'll get there. Sonic Team decided to take some notes from Dimps, the one who developed these Sonic Rush games, and brought the boost mechanic into a 3D space. And yeah, it works great. The boost feels incredibly powerful as he breezes past enemies while the backgrounds just fly away in a blur. This is easily the fastest Sonic has been up to this point. Hell, it's probably the fastest he's even been to this day. Now, boosting isn't the only thing that Sonic has up his sleeve. If you gotta make a sharp turn, that's where the drift comes in. It's a cool idea, but it is something I think that was done better in Sonic Generations. Now, don't get me wrong, when you nail a perfect drift here, it feels really good, but more often than not, I found myself slipping all over the place, especially in Arid Sands. Fuck Arid Sands. Fuck this level, I hate it, it's dumb. The main issue with the drift, and really with the controls overall, is that they're way too slippery. Coming from Sonic Generations and then going back to Sonic Unleashed, the controls in the former game felt tight and responsive. I was in complete control 100% of the time. In Sonic Unleashed, however, when you're making a drift or just running without the boost, it just feels way too loose, like Sonic slathered his shoes with butter or something. And you really feel this in the areas where you have to select which level that you want to play. Do I think these are bad controls? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Now, in the normal daytime stages, they do the job well enough. The stages were designed around these controls, so I don't think it's that big of an issue. Plus, when things start getting out of hand, you also have the quick step to play around with. Now, you wouldn't think it, but this thing is actually incredibly useful for course correction, especially in later parts of the game. Though I will say, there are multiple levels that have you running on top of water, and yeah, it looks phenomenal. It really does make you feel like as if you are breaking the sound barrier. But actually playing these sections, it is nerve-wracking. One mistake and then, boom, dead. Just like that. When you start playing as Sonic, his move pool is pretty decent at first. You got the boost, drift, and the sidestep. You know, those were all brand new mechanics for 3D Sonic. But the more you progress through the story, you'll actually gain even more abilities. Now, I never thought they would bring this back, but similar to the Sonic Adventure games, you actually get gear that gives you new abilities, like stomping, wall jumping, or even the lightspeed dash. I know some folks out there just want Sonic to be this versatile from the get-go, but I've always liked the idea of obtaining new abilities the further along the adventure I go, so needless to say, having this gear come back made me really happy. The stages make great use of your new abilities, and what I like about the gear coming back is, like, let's say you're playing Rooftop Run, for example. There's going to be a few points where you see that you can use the lightspeed dash, but you don't have it yet. So when you progress far enough through the game and you get the lightspeed dash, you can go back to Rooftop Run and take those new paths. These levels are constantly storing information in your brain, and it gives you some sort of incentive to come back and get better. This, I feel, is one of this game's biggest strengths, but it also ties into one of its biggest weaknesses. In order to progress through the game, you're going to have to find a set amount of sun and moon medals. When you're running this fast, it's really easy to miss these guys. So for me, when I did my first playthrough, I would take my time and actually look for them. Once when I found what I needed, I would go back and actually try to get a decent rank. At that point, I would already have a pretty decent idea on how the level was structured and where the set pieces were, so playing through the stage a second time felt really satisfying. But here's the thing, and if you haven't played this game before and this is something that you might want to get into, then you need to listen up. This game is nothing like Sonic Generations or in Sonic Forces. In those games, so long as you didn't die, you were almost guaranteed an S rank. Generations, as much as I love that game, is really, really easy. Sonic Unleashed has teeth to it, and it does have a mean bite. You mess up at a stage, this game is going to punish you. So in order for you to get a good ranking, you're going to have to play these stages over and over and over again until you get it right, which for some could be a turnoff. You're playing the game, you think you're doing a pretty good job, but then you get like a C rank? I get it, that can be a pretty big demotivator. But for me, this challenge was kind of refreshing. Again, with the likes of Generations and Forces, those games were really easy, so it was nice to have a Sonic game that demanded that I got better at the game. And keep in mind, it's not like as if I grew up with this game. I got into this game maybe about like 2015 or so. I didn't really care for it, I put it down, and I only just picked it up this year. Most of the time, not always, when I messed up, it felt as if it was my fault. And when I would get a low rank, it was like as if the game was saying, seriously dude, that's all you got? To which I would reply with, "Bet you ain't seen nothing yet!" Now, I'm not that kind of guy who needs all of the S ranks in order to be satisfied, you know? Like, some people are, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm just not that kind of guy. I've got nothing to prove. If I'm playing to the best of my ability and I get like a B or an A, you know, that's enough for me. But man, that feeling when you get an S rank it is unreal. Again, with the recent games, they handed these things out like candy, but in here, it feels like as if I've actually earned it. And that's a feeling that I haven't had in a Sonic game in a long, long while. So we have a game that has a very sharp difficulty, a game that demands you learn the mechanics by throwing you into the deep end of the pool, a game where you're going to die and die a lot, a game where failure is your greatest teacher, a game where the more you play, the better you become. Now gee, what kind of game does that sound like, huh? It's Devil May Cry. I don't know what you were thinking about. See, the whole point of Devil May Cry is mastering the mechanics, so not only can you effectively and efficiently take care of the enemies, but by looking cool and stylish while doing so. You want to get that S rank, so you gotta do what you can to keep that grade up, dodging at just the right time, putting as much pressure on the enemies as possible, kicking them while they're down by taunting. These are all the things you need to learn in order to get the best rank. It's not about just doing it, but doing it with style.
Oh my god, I love this guy!
The more you play these stages in Unleashed, every pit that you fall in, every enemy that knocks you off a platform, every bed of spikes that kills the run, it's all there to make you better. So once when you have the layout down, it's up to you to run through these stages with as much style and grace as you can. And then when you go after those extra stages, you're really going to have to bring your A game for those. This is something that I actually like about the Sun and Moon medals. While I don't like how you need them in order to progress with the story, having them to unlock the extra stages is perfect, and it makes me want to go out of my way to find as many of these things as I could. It's the little things like this that give the medals worth. But these stages though, oh my god, good lord. You know, playing through the normal day stages for your first time can be rough, but manageable, but these extra stages, these things are lives drainers. If you were to tell me that you hated these extra stages due to their trial and error design, trust me, I would totally understand. And really, with some of these, I can't exactly defend either. Some of these are poorly designed. But at the same time, however, I couldn't resist these things. It was alluring. I wanted to see how difficult these things were, and man, I was not let down. These things are hard as balls. But clearing these stages and doing good on these stages felt incredible. Now that we've touched on the level design a little bit, I actually want to talk more about the level design, go a little bit more in depth as to how I feel about it. But before I do that, I want to address one of this game's biggest criticisms. Is this game boost to win? In some areas, yeah, it definitely does feel like that. Now, is this game linear? Well, it is and it isn't. There are multiple paths, but usually they're just shortcuts or they lead to even more straight lines. I used to think that having these kinds of levels be straight dashes towards the goal was a bad thing, but I kind of realized that so long as you put interesting set pieces and challenges for me to overcome, then it's fine. The way how I see it, it's like comparing Sonic Adventure's level design to Sonic Adventure 2's level design. In Sonic Adventure, the levels are wide open and encourages you to experiment and mess around with some of the mechanics. There's more places for you to stop and play around in. In Sonic Adventure 2, the levels are much more linear, yes, but they're also much more focused. Those levels are designed the way how they are because it wants to give you that over-the-top sensation of running away from a giant truck or trying to catch a rocket before it gets launched. Sonic Adventure 2's level design is more cinematic and extreme, and Sonic Adventure 1 encourages exploration and experimentation. In terms of the boost games, Sonic Generations share similar ideas with Sonic Adventure. While they're not as open as Sonic Adventure, they do encourage you to go off the beaten path, and the environments are surprisingly wide for a boost game. Sky Sanctuary and Seaside Hill immediately come to mind. As for the level design in Sonic Unleashed, it follows the Adventure 2 formula. It's more linear, but they do throw a lot at you. Of course, I have my preferences, but I've always preferred the level design in Sonic Adventure, and in that case, Sonic Generations, more. But I can safely say that the level design in Unleashed, at least with the normal day stages, does what it sets out to do rather well. My issues with the level design mostly boils down to like two things. First is, again, there are chunks of these levels where you are just moving in a straight line, and the second is that this game loves reusing set pieces. Oh, you gotta use a sidestep to bonk into these robots, you gotta sidestep to avoid these bombs and shockwaves from this big guy, whoa! You do this a lot, and it gets old really quick. But to wrap up, the level design is effective in the ways how it feeds information to the player and encourages you to come back and get better at the game. Yes, the more you play, the better you'll get, and that's the whole point of this franchise, ever since the beginning. And with this game, it's not even just about skill, you actually gain experience points by defeating enemies. You can use this experience you get to increase your speed and your boost meter, making it just a little bit easier to get those S ranks. Still, it's a little odd how there's only like 2 options for Sonic. Like, you'd think that there'd be more. Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, the werehog is in this game, and it's definitely a thing. It's often cited to be the worst part about this game. Is this something that I agree with? Nah, those would have to go to these weird, stupid tornado sections. Like, there's only 2 in the game, and it's like an intense game of Simon. It's boring. I mean, you got like the Sky Chase zones from Sonic Adventure. You could have had something like that. You could have had something like Star Fox, but no, it has to be all press the fucking buttons and then you win. Fuck off, man, this sucks. As for the werehog itself, well, I used to not think very fondly of it like most others out there. After playing through it now, I can say that for what it is well made for the most part. Do I think this belongs in a Sonic game? Well, kind of. I think there are ways on making a beat-em-up type character work with the Sonic formula. And again, with that said, I don't think the werehog is a total failure, but it doesn't exactly follow that formula. If you played the likes of God of War, then you're going to have a pretty decent idea of what to expect. And I ain't talking about that no fucking PS4 Dad of War bullshit. Oh, look at me, I'm the Last of Us. I got Game of the Year because I'm so fucking like the Last of Us. Nah, man, I'm talking about God of War 1 through 3. That God of War. You got hack and slash combat, chaining combos, you got the rage meter, quick time events, puzzles, and platforming. Oh, it's so fucking good. And if you played that God of War, then you're gonna know what you're getting into. Do I think the werehog is as good as classic God of War? Is it any better? God, no. But then again, I don't think it's bad. It's just that it's not as good as God of War. The level design in Unleashed is pretty good for the most part, but there are a few areas here that feel pretty jank and unpolished. I remember when I was first playing through this game, jumping off poles always gave me a lot of trouble. I'm a little better at it now, but I cannot forget my first experience with this. I kept falling and I kept dying. But really, the biggest issue that I have with the werehog is that the combat doesn't feel super great. Now, this is incredibly subjective, so just bear with me. For one, I think that the battles are spaced out way too close to each other, so you really don't get a lot of time to breathe, and it feels as if I'm playing a constant game of stop and go. It gets old after a while. Second, some of the sound effects are pretty stock. Like the sound that plays once when you clear a QTE is the sound of a doorbell. Okay, but that's a little random, but why? The sound that plays when you attack a defensive enemy sounds incredibly weak and cheap, and the sound of your hits landing, again, sounds just cheap and stock. Sound is incredibly important when it comes to beat 'em up and hack and slash games. It's the strongest form of feedback that you're going to get. So when it sounds weak or cheap, it does reflect on the actual gameplay. I mean, for me it did anyways, but that's just me. Third would be the enemy designs. These Eggman robots look fine enough, but these Dark Gaia monsters are really bland, and some of them are just the biggest pain in the ass to deal with. Like, you have these bees that are not only super tiny, but fly around a lot, making it near impossible to hit these things reliably. Then you have these wizard monsters that also come in the flaming variety. You can't even touch these guys without getting damaged, so if you don't have any water, well, you're SOL. In Arid Sands Night, you have to deal with both the wizards and the bees. This stage sucked a fat one. Let me tell ya, this level design just involves putting stones in front of certain pedestals and fighting wave after wave after wave of these guys. My first time playing this game, I got to this point and I dropped it. I couldn't be bothered, and I felt no desire to finish this game, especially hearing about how bullshit Eggman Land was. But in all honesty, Eggman Land was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I'll give it that much at least. Chunnan Night also gave me a lot of crap on my very first playthrough. The water here acts as a bottomless pit, and it's really, really easy to lose control and just fall off the side of the platform. The best part is that, once when you dip your toes in the water, you're dead. Aside from those examples, I honestly don't think the werehog is that bad. The way how the levels are designed around the werehog's moveset is smart, and there are plenty of memorable set pieces. The werehog is at its best when it's just straight up platforming. I don't understand why he's got these stretchy arms. Is this a thing about werewolves I don't know about, or what? Still though, the platforming here is some pretty good stuff. And even though I kind of ragged on the combat for a bit, I'm not about to say that it's straight up bad or anything. If anything, it's actually kind of deep. Again, you gain experience for all the enemies that you defeat, and then you get to choose which stat that you want to increase. When I played it, I just dumped everything that I have into my strength stat. I'd rather just blow past everything effortlessly. But if you want, you can also dump some of the EXP into the combat stat, and then you can learn new combos. So there's actually a lot of flexibility with the werehog, and on top of that, thanks to the slower pace of the gameplay, the Sun and Moon medals are also a lot easier to find here. While the level design is linear, it does encourage exploration, and you're usually rewarded with the Sun or Moon medals or with some extra collectibles. Things like VHS tapes that let you rewatch the cutscenes, art books, or even records that let you listen to this game's soundtrack. Now, I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff, and it makes me wish that more Sonic games did this. Generations had the right idea with the red rings, and even Forces to an extent with the extra stages you unlock for collecting the red rings. I've always preferred the a hat in time approach to these collectibles, where everything that you collect is there to help you in some way. Like you had the different hats or badges that gives you new abilities or attacks. But what's done here on Unleashed is fine as well. It's giving me some sort of reason to go out of my way to pick these things up. Back to the werehog. The main point of contention that most people have is that this isn't something that should be in a Sonic game. Now, this is going to be my 2 cents on the matter, and as such, again, this is entirely subjective. So here's the thing, and I'm going to go on just a bit of a rant here. The reason why people didn't like Big the Cat in Sonic Adventure, for example, wasn't just that it had nothing to do with Sonic, but also because it just straight up was bad. It did not work as well as it should have. If the fishing mechanics actually worked and were more fleshed out, I believe people would be more forgiving of its inclusion. And I also remember when Sonic Adventure 2 came out, people were really glad to see the mech gameplay come back and to be more fleshed out from Sonic Adventure 1. But nowadays, people complain because it beeps or whatever. But people also complain that the controls aren't as good as they were in SA1, which is very true because the mech gameplay in Sonic Adventure 2 is way more stiff than it is in SA1. You can't fight me on this, Jeb. Jeb, let me have this. Don't fight me on this, Jeb. Jeb! My point is, while this isn't something that I think needs to come back, this isn't something that's so radically different than what we're used to. At its core, and at its best, the werehog is a platformer. The mech stages in Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 had a focus on shooting, but there was still a lot of platforming. Even Amy in Sonic Adventure 1, despite her being slow, is still all about platforming. And what is Sonic? A platformer. One that has a focus on speed, yes, but at its core, it's a platformer. Again, I know this is a massive side tangent, but this is why I never really understood the whole shtick about how all the multiple playable characters in Sonic games, they all suck. It's a bad thing to have multiple playable characters. Okay, you got Big the Cat. That's the worst offender. I understand that one. But the other playstyles, to me, don't feel too out of place. I'm sorry. Back to Amy. Yes, she is a slow character, but if you know what you're doing, you can actually go pretty fast and look cool while doing so. And I feel as if the same could be applied to the mech stages in the adventure games, and even here with the werehog. The more you play, the more you learn about the mechanics, the better that you get. And the better that you are, the closer you are to perfecting the stages and finishing them with style. I'm pretty sure that's what Sonic has always been about. So I'm going to get a lot of hate by saying this, but I look at something like Crash 3, and it has the normal levels, but then you also have levels where you're flying on a plane, or you're on a jet ski, or on a motorcycle. And then I'm told, well, yeah, those playstyles are related to what Crash is about. And I guess it explains why these games made no sense to me, because I don't know what they're about. I don't know what they're trying to do, so I don't understand why Sonic having these multiple playable characters is a bad thing, but then when Crash has something like this where you have all these game modes that don't add up, oh, well, that's what it's all about. I don't give a fuck. No, that's stupid. The bottom line, I think the werehog on its own is fine. The platforming can actually be fun, and the stages are well designed, and the combat can be fun at times. I just feel as if there's a bit of jank with the controls, and really it's just when you're trying to jump off poles. Also, the overuse of QuickTime events gets old pretty fast, and I'm not gonna lie, the sound effects just lack that oomph that I find in other, better beat-em-ups. Even with all of that, the werehog is still competent and fleshed out, so I really don't have much to complain about here. Really, the QuickTime events are only offensive for the werehog during the boss battles, and even with that said, I'm not sure why I'm okay with the QuickTime events in God of War, but Unleashed I find them kind of obnoxious. I mean, it also helps with God of War. The bosses in those games are really good, and the bosses in Unleashed, while not anything bad, I'd struggle to call them good either. I mean, the final boss kind of sucks just flat out, but the rest of the bosses are just kind of mediocre. They're nothing great, nothing bad, but they're just kind of there. Just unremarkable. That's really all I have to say about the bosses. Meh. So far, so good. I had a great time learning the ins and outs of the daytime stages. I was pleasantly surprised by the werehog stages, and the optional acts were a fun, ball-busting distraction. Now, I've been pretty positive throughout this entire thing, and I haven't even got to my favorite thing about this game. This shit, man. This is my shit right here. Sonic Unleashed was the last Sonic game to have fully explorable 3D hub worlds, so it's a good thing that it went out on a high note. The hub worlds, and in relation, the stages themselves, are based on real-world locations. To add more praise to the level design itself, most of these levels feel organic. Like, yeah, you got floating platforms and loops and stuff, but it feels like as if you're running through real places. This sort of level connectivity has always been one of the coolest things for me. Sonic Adventure did a pretty decent job of making the levels and hub worlds feel connected, and while something like Mario Sunshine doesn't do this level hub world connection, it does make the levels feel as if they take place within one massive location. When you make your levels or your stages feel like actual parts of the game world, it makes me forget that I'm playing a game. It makes me feel as if I'm going on an adventure. And you know, to add on to this, you even have people in the stages themselves just doing their own thing. You know, sometimes they'll be cheering Sonic on, sometimes they'll be reading a book, or they'll be standing in your way, killing the run! Fucking Arid Sands, fuck this level, man. Oh my god. Oh, hey, man, look at this bird, man. Like, I like this bird. This bird's so chill, man. I want to be just like this bird. And the people in the hub worlds have their own stories and even side quests. Now, I'll be real, I only discovered that this game had these side missions maybe about like a year or so ago. Not a lot of people talk about this aspect of the game, but it's one of the things I love about it. Exploring new locations, talking to the locals, listening to their stories, and experiencing different cultures. I love this kind of stuff. And I think Unleashed does this well. And I only feel compelled to bring this up because there are so many games out there that gets this wrong. Hey, you want to know what kills the immersion? Making every character sound exactly the fucking same. I love talking to these people and hearing what they have to say. My favorite NPCs are the robots in Eggman Land. You have one that has a model number that calls back to the Genesis, or Mega Drive if you're not an American. You got one that calls back to the Dreamcast, and even the Xbox 360. This guy, though, I love this little guy. He talks about how he's new to the scene and asks you a bunch of questions. And if you're nice to him, he'll consider you a friend and asks you to call him Eggy. Like, that stuff makes my heart melt, man. You also have people from different parts of the world traveling to different countries, which, again, makes this world feel real. You can talk to them and find out what they're doing, and some of them even have side quests of their own. I know some think that the side missions were a waste of development time, but I've got to disagree. If you look at something like Sonic 06, for example, that game was unpolished and unfinished, so the fact that they have side missions in different game modes feels like a waste of time because they could have used that time to polish up the core game. Sonic Unleashed not only feels polished, for the most part, but it also feels like a full, complete game that's worth $60. If you ignore all of the side content, you're still getting a lot of bang for your buck. especially now when this game digitally is only like $15. Now, whether or not the side content is any good is a different story. There's a lot of them out there, and I've only ever done like a handful, but the ones that I've played were pretty good. Though I have been told that there are some stinkers out there, so if you're going to play this game, do keep that into consideration. You can also find Sun and Moon medals in the hub worlds, and there are even shops that sell souvenirs and food. If you give enough souvenirs to Professor Pickle, he'll give you some Sun and Moon medals, and while I think it's dumb to lock progression through the medals, it was never an issue for me. As for the food, if you feed it to Sonic, you'll get experience points, but if you feed it to Chip, it will increase or decrease your friendship points with him. Give him enough food that he likes, and you'll be rewarded with a few CG scenes of Sonic and Chip hanging out. And see, this is why I like this game so much. They didn't have to do this kind of stuff, but they did it anyways. I get the feeling that the development team really believed in what they were making, and they had a lot of fun making this game and coming up with weird ideas and stories. But you want to know something? This game obviously is not perfect, and the endgame clearly reflects that. I could go on and on about how Eggman Land is a poorly designed level that's filled with beginner's traps, or about how long it took me to beat Eggman Land, or about all the bad platforming sections. I could talk about how frustrating the first phase of the final boss was and the boost stages that follow after it. But for one thing, I don't really have anything to say that you haven't heard a million times before. Like, I don't have anything to add on to the topic. And secondly, and I know this is going to sound like a massive cop-out, but I don't really care about those things. They didn't make me like the game I was playing any less. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to undersell anything. This endgame is really, really, really bad. I remember I was on a call with one of my friends, and I was ranting and screaming about how bad it was. But then when I beat the final boss, and I watched the credits play out, I realized that this endgame portion didn't take away anything. Sonic Unleashed tells a good story with a satisfying beginning, middle, and end, and the voice acting that supports the story is strong. This game looks stunning, and it has great art direction that fits Sonic perfectly. The daytime stages were rewarding with an easy-to-learn, hard-to-master formula. The werehog is fleshed out and offers satisfying platforming. The hub worlds are condensed and filled with interesting people to talk to. The music... Oh my... I've been all this time talking about the game, I haven't even talked about the freaking music. Oh my god, that's a cardinal sin. Tomoyo Otani, please forgive me if I messed up his name, takes the reins, and oh my god. The best thing I could say about this soundtrack is that it sounds incredibly high quality. Sonic Adventure is still my favorite. Otani is really damn good when he tries, but I'm sorry, I love my boy Sonoy way too much. The music here is varied, and it fits the atmosphere and the environments perfectly. You know, a little while ago, I was on a playthrough of Sonic Adventure with my friend Exoparadigm Gamer. In that playthrough, he actually went out of his way to talk to the NPCs and showed off how fleshed out the hub worlds were in that game. I've been playing that game for years, and I actually learned a lot in that playthrough. This kind of goes into a hot button topic about what people want out of a Sonic game. No two answers are ever the same, and that's because Sonic has done so much up to this point. Which, for me, is a part of the appeal for following this franchise. It keeps me on my toes because you never really know what to expect, for better or for worse. I would always say that I just want Sonic games to be good, like I want them to be quality games with polish, and I still stand by that. But being on that Sonic Adventure playthrough, and after playing Sonic Unleashed, it made me realize something. I just want another Sonic game that makes me feel like as if I'm going on a grand adventure again. I enjoy Sonic Colors. I loved Sonic Generations and Lost World, and I even enjoyed Forces. But those games, as much as I liked them, always felt like as if they were lacking something, and after playing Unleashed, it made me realize what it was. Now, I don't think every game needs to feel like an adventure in order to be good, but it's been well over 10 years since we've had a Sonic game with this much content and with so much to see and do. I'm glad I was able to go back and try this game out again. This went from being my least favorite 3D Sonic game to, well, I'm not even exactly sure where this falls under my Sonic tier list, but I had a great time with this game. It's not for everybody, I need to make that perfectly clear. Hell, it's even kind of hard for me to recommend this game. The fanbase is split on this game for a reason, and a lot of the criticisms I can't exactly defend. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed the journey, and that's what matters most for me, not the destination. When Sonic Forces came out, I did a podcast with my friends on the Inversecast talking about the game, and I said that I liked the game more than Sonic Unleashed. Is this something that I still stand by? Well, here's the thing. I'm not exactly sure. From my view, both games set out to do two totally different things. I would come home from a long day of work, a physically and mentally draining day. I would play Sonic Forces and I would enjoy myself. Now, as bad as this is going to sound, I didn't have to think too much about what I was doing. I could lay back, play a few zones, and enjoy the power trip. If Sonic Unleashed is Devil May Cry, then Sonic Forces is like playing a Warriors game casually. I don't know, I can't really compare the two because they both set out to do two totally different things. One is more technical and rewarding, and the other, while shallow, is mindless fun, and for me, both have value. I have a more positive outlook with Sonic Unleashed than I do with Sonic Forces. I could say that much. With Unleashed, I see an attempt to move the series forward, and it tried something new. The story didn't feel forced, and getting S ranks felt really good. Meanwhile, with Forces, while it was fun, the marketing made it seem like as if it was a completely different game. I'm looking at you, Chaos. I'm still really salty about that shit. I have more respect for Sonic Unleashed for what it did than I do with Sonic Forces, but at the end of the day, I value both for different reasons. Does that make any sense? I mean, really, no matter what I say, I'm going to come across as a Sonic fanboy, but you want to know something? I don't really care. I can't help what I like. If I pick up a game and I play it and I enjoy it, well then guess what? I enjoy it. I don't let anyone do my thinking for me. My thoughts are my own. I can at least say that.
You know, I gotta be real with you guys. I wasn't expecting this video, well, for one, to take as long as it did to make, and secondly, for this to be the longest video on my channel, but we got the Zelda retrospective coming up pretty soon, so we're going to see how long that lasts. And you might be wondering why I didn't cover the Wii or the PS2 version of Sonic Unleashed. And that's because, I mean, for one, this video is already way too long, and I gotta get that Zelda project rolling. And second, you know, the Wii version and the 360 version, like, those are two completely different games. You could even say that the difference between the Xbox 360 version and the Wii version is night and day. But yeah, with that said, I mean, that's really all the time that I have right now. I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I'm going to get to work on Zelda. But if there's any closing thoughts, it's game journalism is a fucking joke.
1, 2, 3, 4.